Toronto Raptor fans, it has been quite a while since I've had the pleasure of talking to all of you. And I got to admit, I thought I already uploaded a season review, off-season preview video. Then I saw a comment on one of my Jays games saying, when are you going to do one? I'm like, I swear I already did one, and started scrolling through. I definitely didn't. So I wanted to wait post-draft so I had some more content to put out to you guys. And obviously we all know the draft took place last night, and the Toronto Raptors did not trade up, and we'll get into all that fiasco in a little bit. But we're here to talk about the season that was. Obviously, we all know the Golden State Warriors are NBA champs yet again, which is crazy. And congrats to Steph, Clay, Draymond, Andrew Wiggins, all these guys for winning the chip. But for the Toronto Raptors, we are here to talk about the season that was, the 2021-2022 season. We're going to talk about the draft, and we're going to talk about Christian Koloklo real quick. And I got a lot of things written down for him that I want to talk about. And then we'll briefly touch on the off-season preview, because there's no names that jump out at me as like, yep, I want this guy. Yep, I want this guy. But there are positional, there are needs that this team has that I'm going to fire out to you guys, and you guys maybe want to give me some names. Because this video is about me just putting out a bunch of information for you, and you guys going nuts in the comments, all right? So let's start off with the season review, okay? Going into last year, the Toronto Raptors, the expectations after getting Scottie Barnes 4th overall, it was like, okay, you like to see some growth. It's a developmental year for the Toronto Raptors. You kept hearing that phrase quite often. And to start the season, yeah, it definitely seemed that way. But as the season progressed, and as this Raptor team started to feel themselves, and Pascal Siakam got into the swing of things, Scottie Barnes came into his own, the emergence of guys like Precious Achiuwa, all these guys started to take full, and the Raptors started to play some really good basketball. And they end up with the number 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, going into the playoffs, going up against the 4th seed Philadelphia 76ers. Now, obviously, going into that series, the head-to-head matchup, the Raptors won the head-to-head matchup. However, with Joel Embiid and all this, you didn't know how it was going to go. And we all know how that series went down. You lost the first, 3 games. It did not look pretty. You lost the first 2 single-handedly. And obviously, Scottie Barnes going down early in that series in Game 1. And then coming back home and Joel Embiid hitting that big-time shot in overtime to put them up 3-0. Then the Raptors, with I would say the backs up against the wall, but really no pressure, win the next 2. But unfortunately can't win Game 6. And they lose in 6 to the Philadelphia 76ers. But I think we can all agree it was a successful year. In this developmental season, the Toronto Raptors force a team in Philly who, I wouldn't say was championship bound, but the aspirations were championship or bust. And evidently it didn't go much further than that. The Raptors took them to 6, albeit it wasn't very pretty, but it was the first real playoffs for guys like Gary Trent Jr., obviously for guys like Scottie Barnes, and for a guy like Fred VanVleet, the first time he's kind of carrying this team into the playoffs. And for Pascal Siakam, with fans in the stands, the first time he's carrying a team into the playoffs. Obviously he had the bubble season, but there's no fans in the stands. So the first real test for a lot of these guys, and they definitely looked out of sorts early. You saw after Game 3, the reporters like, Pascal, didn't you realize that you didn't only took this many shots in the second half? He's like, really? Wow. And then in Game 4, came out guns a-blazing, and you won that game. So it's all about finding those positives out of a series like that, especially with a very, very young team like the Toronto Raptors. Now let's get into individuals, because there are a lot of players I want to talk about. And we're going to start right at the very top with the Rookie of the Year, Scottie Barnes. We all had that feeling he would get it. And then as the season progressed and as the season got closer to the end and you saw the Cleveland Cavaliers fall off and you saw Evan Mobley get hurt near the end of the season and Scottie Barnes, as the All-Star break, was just thriving and being an integral part in this team making that 5th seed in the East, he wins the Rookie of the Year. Well-deserved for the young fella. And we all know what the expectations are for next year for Scottie, but we're not going to get to that. Well-deserved for Scottie Barnes. Definitely defensively had a tough start to the season. Offensively, he had some great games. He had some games where he just was non-existent. But then once the All-Star break hit, once the Rising Stars game hit, and guys like him and Precious Achiuwa started to think, damn, we're rising stars in this league. Let's start playing like it. And we all know how Scotty Barnes came out of that All-Star break feeling, especially those games out in LA when he was outstanding. He was absolutely phenomenal. And I still don't have my Scotty Barnes jersey, which is frustrating, but I'm still going to find a way to get one come season's beginning. That's for damn sure. Let's move on to Pascal Siakam. And obviously the second biggest player on this team. Well, he's the biggest player on the team. Obviously Scotty Barnes, ceiling-wise, is the biggest. But for Pascal, obviously had the offseason surgery and came back and definitely wasn't the same to start, as you would expect, but fans get impatient early, very quickly. And defensively, he looked a little slow, but then as the season started to go, and he got his feet underneath him, because he didn't have training camp, he didn't have preseason, it took him a little bit. But once he got his feet underneath him, Pascal was lights out. He had an incredible end of the season. He made All-NBA. And it was well-deserved for Pascal. I believe he won All-NBA. It's been a while since I looked at that, but I'm pretty confident he did. And he was well-deserved for Pascal Siakam. And yeah, the first few games in the playoffs wasn't the greatest, but his back up against the wall, albeit down 3-0, when your team needed him to be great, he did a great job. Now, again, his first playoff run with the Raptors as the main guy, he did a job. He did a job, and we're expecting for similar things next year for Pascal. Maybe continue to see that three-point shot grow, because I think that's the last piece for Pascal. If he can do that consistently, oh my God, the sky's the limit for that kid. He's 29. What am I talking about? No, that's Chris Boucher. He's 29? He's in and around there. Let's get to the other guy, the court general, and Fred VanVleet. There's no denying the fact. There's no beating around the bush. It's pretty obvious to everybody that the minutes that Fred VanVleet played last season were way too much. Averaging over 40 minutes a night halfway through the season, and then he was starting to get hurt. And then come playoff time, you could definitely see he was not healthy. And then I think it was like the groin or something in the lower half for Fred that he was battling for the second half of the season. Whenever you were able to get some rest for him, you did, but he still wasn't 100%. And when it came playoff time, you didn't see that for Fred, right? Post All-Star break, his numbers dropped significantly because the load he had to carry in that first half of the season was just way too much. Way too much. And we all knew it. We were just hoping it wasn't going to hit a brick wall at some point, but it did. And we expected that. That's got to change going into next year. His load has to lighten up. You got to average 35 a night, 34 a night. Be efficient, take the days off that he needs to take off, fine, so be it. You need him fresh and ready. If you have a fresh and ready Fred VanVleet come playoff time, and then you add Scotty Barnes hopefully developing the way we all hope he's going to, and Pascal continuing to grow, and the team could be incredible. But it's all about how you play over the 82 regular season games. Kawhi Leonard said it best. It's just practice for the playoffs. But if you're playing every regular season game like it's the playoffs, you're not going to make it that far. And that's what we saw this past year. But for Fred VanVleet, it's all about continuing to grow, stay healthy, and just go out there and do his thing. He'll continue to develop and grow. I mean, we've seen it every single year from Fred. But as the court general now, for really the first year last season, he took on that role a little too much. He's got to back it off a bit. And he said in his, in the press conferences and whatnot, in the offseason stuff, that he's okay to take a little bit of a backseat, a little bit to the offense to kind of keep himself healthy. And hey, that's what we want to hear. Absolutely. Now, let's get to not the less important guys, but the less talked about names. How about that? Gary Trent Jr. We saw some very good stretches for Gary. We saw some very bad stretches for Gary. It was kind of that peaks and valleys type of season. The peaks, when he was averaging like 30 a game for like 6 straight games, we're like, man, this guy can't miss a shot. But then there was followed up by the guy can't score more than 20 and shooting like 15% every game, right? So it was up and down. But the one thing that he continued to do all season long was defensive intensity. Getting up on balls, almost leading the league in deflections at one point. Steals, he was all over the place. His on-ball D was incredible. And you didn't see that in years past. So that development was really nice to see. The one thing for Gary is consistently knock down your jumpers, your threes, because that is what this team needs. And when I get to the offseason preview, that's the big one. Shooters. And Gary Trent Jr. is one of those shooters. They've got to be consistent. But that's the thing for Gary Trent. OG Anunoby, we'll get to him in a bit about the whole, Portland Trailblazers nonsense. But the thing for OG is stay healthy. That's all I got to say. We know what he does when he's on the floor. But he's off the floor too much. So that's all I got to say about OG. His game is incredible. Just got to stay on the floor. Now, Precious Achiuwa. As I mentioned with Scotty Barnes, post All-Star break, post Rising Stars game, Scotty took his game to a new level. Precious Achiuwa did as well. The confidence went right up. It's like he got around these rising stars. Got around Cade, got around Scotty, got around Evan Mobley. All these great young players. And thought, damn, I'm in this group. The confidence level shot right up for Precious. We all know how he ended the season shooting the three. We saw a couple of insane plays from Precious, and he didn't look out of sorts. How many times in the second half of the year did we see him dribble, get lost, throw the ball away, or travel because he looked out of sorts, or these weird layups? Like, you didn't see that a lot in the second half from Precious because the confidence was there. We're looking to continue to see that grow, and obviously if his three-point shot can shoot like it did in the second half, that's massive. It's absolutely massive. So, we talked about the season. There were positives, there were negatives. Now let's get to the draft. And this is where I'm going to spend a good bit of time. And I know I understand I'm over 10 minutes, and I'm hoping my phone can handle this. Christian Koloklo. The Raptors drafted the 22-year-old from Cameroon. Sounds familiar? Pascal Siakam from Cameroon. The 7-foot rim protector. They drafted him with the 33rd overall pick. Obviously, that's the Pistons pick they got from San Antonio in exchange for Thaddeus Young. Obviously, they traded back with the pick and bringing at value at that pick. Yes, he's 22 years old. A little bit of an older guy drafted in this year's draft. However, is exactly what the Raptors do need. A 7-foot center, a rim protector, albeit a second-round pick, so you're not going to fire him as your starting center right away because that's just ridiculous. However, year after year, this kid has gotten better and better. I believe he played for Arizona State. And he averaged 5.3 points a game a couple of years ago. What did he average last year? 12.6 a game. Now, a lot of his shots are in tight to the bucket, so he did average 64% from the field from inside, which is great. Make the shots you're supposed to make, and he was. He also averaged 2.8 blocks a game, which is second most in Arizona State history. Remarkable stuff. He was also Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. But if there's any knock on this young fella, he doesn't shoot the three. In the 3 years that he played in college, he didn't make a three. So that's something that he'll continue to grow, continue to move. And Raptors developmental staff, I'm totally fine with that. But the thing that we love about this guy, and he's typical Raptors player, long 7-foot defender who can guard basically anybody. His lateral quicks are incredible. Obviously, averaging almost 3 blocks a game. He's got that rim protection. He's gonna change shots. So I'm very excited to see what the kid has in store. Obviously, we don't know where his role is going to be. Obviously, with the question mark with Kem Birch's knees, we don't know where that's going to be. Obviously, Precious Achiuwa is probably going to be playing some 4, some 5. So he'll probably get some playing time. The question is, how's he going to look on the floor with NBA talent? And I think that's the big question mark for me. But I do want to bring up a quote that he did. He said, actually, it was something he tweeted out this morning. I just woke up. And I'm a Toronto Raptor. Well, I was at Raptors, man. I can't wait to get to work Toronto. A lot of fire emojis. # We the North. Anybody who loves Toronto and wants to be in Toronto and shows it, we love them. I mean, that's why we're seeing the love from Scotty Barnes all the time, and we love him every second of the day. So for Christian Koloklo, I think it was a great draft pick for the Toronto Raptors. I think it filled a need. That's what it did. He added you size at the 5 position, and he's still incredibly defensively. He can guard the guards. He's got those quicks, and that's why it's going to be very interesting to see come summer league and in training camp and how this kid really shows out. Come regular season. Obviously, it's going to take some time though, right? He's 22 years old, and he's at that stage where you want to see him grow. Because OG is 24. This guy's already 22, so that'll kind of put into perspective for you guys where he's at in his development. But I love the pick. I love the energy he's going to bring and more length to the Toronto Raptors. It's pretty crazy stuff. Now, quickly, off-season stuff. Shooters. That's what the Raptors need. Period. I'm just going to leave that there. And a question for you guys. Do they need another big? I feel like they do. But because with the Kem Birch, question marks with his knees, and they just drafted this kid, which is nice. But it seems like they need another traditional big, someone to kind of bang bodies. The last time they had a traditional big was Alex Len, and he didn't last more than a month. So they got to figure that out. But how do they get that? Is it free agency? Is it via the trade market? Speaking of the trade market, a lot of hot stuff going into the draft. Where OG Anunoby, the Portland Trailblazers are pursuing OG Anunoby for the seventh overall pick. And we obviously heard before that OG's not happy with his role in Toronto. How true are all of these things? I don't know. But I know Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster picked up the phone from Portland. Yeah, we like OG for the 7th. And I could probably hear Masai and Bobby going, okay. And? Well, that's it? Yeah, okay, yeah, see you later. Not enough of that. So, that's my take on that. Now, it was a quick off-season stuff, guys, because we're already at 16 minutes. And I don't know how my phone's going to handle this. But a very successful draft, in my opinion, for the Toronto Raptors, considering where they were slotted at the 33 overall selection. A very successful 2021-22 season. And for the offseason, it's going to be interesting to see what the Raptors do. Do they go bigger, or do they trust the in-house development and go into next year more or less with the same squad, just looking to grow and get better? I don't know. I think they're going to go that route and just add a couple pieces. Like I said, a shooter or two off the bench would be fantastic, because some bench scoring would be splendid, and none of this being Mihailuk nonsense. All right, so Raptor fans, that is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video and are jacked up to watch Raptor basketball again, albeit it's a very long way away, but it's on the horizon, I guess. Smack the like button, appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. You guys not already, comment down below thoughts on the draft, thoughts on the season that was. Your off-season thoughts, and what do you think this Raptor team should do, who they should go after, any trade packages, let me know in the comments below. Twitter link is down below, so follow up, send me a DM to that great stuff. The Instagram link is also down below, so follow up there if you guys have not done so already. And I will talk to you guys, Jay's Edition, very short, tonight, as they are in Milwaukee taking on the Brewers. Alec Manoah, Adrian Hauser is the pitching matchup there in game 1 of the 3-game road set in Milwaukee. And as for the Toronto Raptors, I'll talk to you whenever they decide to do something off-season-wise. I'll be here to cover for you. All right? So you know what, guys? Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and the off-season preview, the draft review, and the season review. I'll talk to you guys then.